Alright, so with that done, let's take another look at the reference. Alright, so I think we can start building the railings now, and we'll start down here at the bottom with this square rail. Alright, it looks square to me anyway, so I think we'll just make it square. You can see at the end here there's almost like a cap or a plug or something stuck in there. I think I actually might leave that detail off of mine. You could add it if you want to, but I think I'm just going to leave mine hollow so you can see right into the inside of the rail. Okay, just because it's going to be a little quicker. Alright, so let's go back to the front view. And for this we can use another box. Let's grab one on the crate panel, and I'm just going to drag one out next to that block piece we made. Alright, and we'll give it a little height. Alright, I'm not sure the size we're going to need yet. I'm just going to move it over too. Alright. And we'll go into perspective here so we can judge the size a bit better. Alright, so it looks like it's, you know, a fair bit longer than those block pieces we made. We just want to make sure we go out far enough that we have room to put this rail along the front here. Okay. So let's go into the modify panel, and on the height, we know this block was 55 long. Alright, so let's try maybe 60 and see how that looks. Okay, and we're going to have to center the pivot again. So hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object, turn that off. Alright, and again we'll open up the move tool by right clicking it, and just zero out the Y spinner by right clicking it. Alright, just snap it into place. I'm just going to close this. Alright, so we want it sticking out a bit, and that looks like it might be okay. It might not be exact to the reference, but I think that should work for this. Okay, so we'll say 60 is good, and now let's figure out the length and the width. Alright, that might be a little too beefy. Let's take it down a little bit. I'm going to try maybe 3 by 3, and we'll see how that looks. Alright, that's probably fine. Okay, so we'll do 3 on the length, 3 on the width, 60 on the height, and we'll just leave the segments all at 1. Okay? And let's just make sure it's sitting in the right spot. Alright, so in the front view, I'm just going to zoom in here and just move it over until it touches this block we made. Alright, and we'll kind of center it between the top and the bottom of it. Alright, it doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, so we can convert to editable poly now by right clicking. Alright, I'm going to go to polygon, and I'm just going to select both the end polygons, holding control. Okay, and then like I mentioned, I'm going to make mine hollow so you can see right inside, but I don't want to just delete the end polygons because then the railing is going to look like it's paper thin. Alright, so that's going to look kind of weird. So I think what we'll do here is we'll just inset these to give it a little bit of thickness. Okay, so let's open up inset. Alright, we'll zoom in here so you can see, and I'm just going to lower the amount down. Alright, that actually might be fine right there. So we'll do 0.25 on the inset amount, and OK. Alright, and now I also want to punch it through to make it hollow. And the easiest way to do that is just use bridge. Alright, so make sure you still have both ends selected, and then just hit bridge. Okay, and you can see it punched all the way through. Alright, and that's the awesome thing about the bridge tool. It does everything for you in one click. You know, normally you'd have to extrude that polygon all the way up to the other end and delete it and then weld the verts all together and everything. But by using bridge, it's all done for you. So that's pretty sweet. Alright. I think we'll go into isolation mode here again. So Alt Q. Alright. And let's go to edge. And we're just going to want to round over some of the corners. Let's take a look. Alright. Alright, so again, make sure you don't have ignore backfacing turned on. And I'm just going to click and drag through the center. Alright, just to get all 4 corners and the inside ones. And then we'll hit loop. Alright, and let's just round these over a bit. I actually might exit isolation mode here, just so I can see it against the actual hatch. Alright, so now we'll chamfer. Alright, and we'll just lower the amount down. That actually might be fine right there. Okay, so I'm going to say 0.15 and OK. And again, you don't have to use the same amount, you know, just do it to where you feel it looks the best. Alright, so with those corners done, let's do the ends. So I'm going to hit Control I to invert the selection. Okay, and now we'll do the ends. So chamfer. Alright, and for these I'm just going to lower it down a bit. Alright, that might be cool right there. So I'm going to say 0.07 on the amount and just hit OK. Alright, now we can exit edge. Alright, and I'm just going to click off just to deselect everything, and I'm going to hit Z, alright, just to center the model. Alright, let's change the color of this actually. I'm going to make it black again. And just assign the shader. Alright, so now let's have a look. Alright, I think that should be fine for the rail. Okay, so let's select that piece again, and we're going to have to name it. So let's call it maybe square rail. Alright, and that's not right. So take that out. Alright, let's also center the pivot point again. So hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, center to object, and just click to turn that off. Alright, so we're also going to want to copy on this side, so let's just do it the same way as before. So I'm going to go out into the front view. Alright, and again I'm just going to hold down shift, and on the move tool just drag a copy on the X over to the other side. Alright, and a copy, and OK. And we'll zoom in here and just position it. Alright, just want it to be touching the outside of that block piece. Alright. Alright, so just like that. Not looking too bad. Alright, so we should probably save one more time. Okay, so I think before we actually build the corner post here for the rail, we should probably add this little crossbar that goes between the two square rails. Alright, and that shouldn't take too long. If you zoom in here, you can kind of see on the end, it's kind of hard to tell what it looks like, but it looks like it kind of tapers down and thins out and then goes into the post. Alright, so we might want to add a little bit of a bevel to the ends. Alright, but let's just get one in there and adjust it. Alright, so for this I think we'll go into the left view. Okay, and we can go into wireframe view, F3, and I'm just going to zoom in on the end of the square rail here. Alright, and let's just grab another cylinder on the create panel and drag one out here. I'm going to try to center it on this piece. Alright, I'm not sure how thick it'll need to be, so we'll just get one in there and kind of center it. Okay, doesn't have to be perfect. And let's look in perspective. Alright, so I think let's worry about the height before we do the radius. Alright, so let's go into the modify panel, and the first thing I do is just get rid of the height segments. Let's right click to take it down to 1. Cap segments we'll leave at 1 because I think we'll delete the ends anyway. Sides I'm going to leave them at 18 just so it turns out, somewhat smooth when it renders. Okay, and the height, let's just maybe try 60 or so and just see if that's long enough. It might be too long. Alright, so we'll have to center the pivot again. Hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, center object. Turn this off. Alright, and again I'm just going to right click on the move tool, and this time I'm going to right click the x-axis to zero it out. Alright, just so it snaps into place. Alright, so it's a little too long. You can see it's sticking right through the inside of our rail there. Alright, so I'll adjust that in a second. And again, if you decide to put that cap piece in the end, you don't really need to worry about that because you can never, see in there. Alright, so let's go into the modify panel again, and for the radius, we're probably pretty close. I might just take it down a little bit. Alright, so I'm going to say maybe 0.5 on the radius and 60 on the height. Okay, and that'll be close enough, I think. Alright, so I'm just going to change the color one more time. Alright, so let's convert this to editable poly. Right click. Okay, and first thing I do is just go to polygon and just make sure you don't have ignore backfacing turned on. And I'm just going to drag through around the whole thing. Alright, and then hold Alt and just deselect the middle ones. Okay, just so we're left with the two end caps. Okay, and we'll just hit delete and get rid of them because we don't really need them. Okay, so now let's adjust the length. So I'm going to go to vertex, and we'll do this in the front view. Alright, zoom in here on the end, and I'm just going to select all the end verts and just drag them over and I think I'll just stop inside the square rail we made there. Okay, just so we won't see it sticking through. Alright, we'll do the same at the other end. Okay, grab them all and just move them over. Okay. Alright, so yeah, I think we should bevel the ends a bit. So let's go to edge and just drag through the center. Okay, and we'll do another connect here. And this time we're going to use 2 segments. Alright, I'm just going to turn off the edges with F4, just so it's a little easier to see what we're doing. Alright, so 2 segments, and I'm just going to pinch them apart, just so they get down closer to either end. Okay. Alright, that might be fine right there, so I'm going to say 95 on the pinch, no slide, and OK. Alright, and I think we'll do this in the front view as well. So I'm going to jump in there, and let's zoom in on the end. Okay, and I'm just going to go to vertex, and just select all the end verts again. Alright, and I think we'll just scale these down to give it a bit of a taper. Okay, and when I do that, you can always look down here on the coordinates to see how much I'm doing if you want to match it. Okay, so let's go to scale, and I'm just going to scale on the triangle. Alright, we'll go down a bit. Doesn't have to be a lot. Alright, that looks maybe okay, so we'll do 80 on the XYZ on the bottom down there. Okay, and then we'll go to the other end. Grab them all, scale one more time, and I'm going to go down to 80 again. Alright, that way I'll know both ends are the same. Okay? Alright. And what we might also want to do here is just chamfer this edge. Okay, so let's try that. So I'm going to go back to edge. Alright, they should still be selected, both those loops. Alright, if not, just reselect them. Alright, we'll just zoom in here. I'm just going to open up chamfer. Okay, and let's just lower the amount down a bit. Alright, I just want to kind of smooth the transition out. Alright, so that actually might be fine right there. We'll say 0.23 and OK. Alright, so let's take a look. It's a little hard to notice. And again, this isn't going to match the reference exactly, but it should be okay. Alright, so we'll say that's good for that piece. Let's name this one. And I think I'll just call this I don't know, crossbar or cross rail, whatever you like, and let's center the pivot on it. Hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object, and just turn it off. Alright, and we're also going to want one of these over on the back. Okay, so let's do that. So I'm going to jump into the left view for this. Alright, just going to check the placement. Just want to make sure it's kind of centered. Alright, on that end, and I'm going to hold down shift and just drag another copy on the X down to the other end. Alright, and we'll try to center that one too. And copy, and OK. Alright, so that should be fine, I think. Let's go back to perspective. Alright, so it's not looking too bad. Okay, so before we start building the railing, let's save. And let's take one more look. Alright, so we'll start with the corner post. That makes the most sense. Alright, and if you look in here, you can see the radius of the post is pretty much the width of this square rail down here. Okay, so let's go into the top view. Alright, I'm just going to zoom in on the end of the square rail. Okay, we can probably go into wireframe again, F3. Alright, so for this we'll just grab another cylinder on the gray panel, and I'm just going to drag one out on the square rail. Alright. And again, I'm not sure of the size, so just get one in and give it a little height. And then I'm going to try to center it kind of between these chamfered edges here. Okay, and let's go out and move it up. Do this in the left view. I'm just going to move it up so it's kind of sitting on top of that rail. Alright. Okay, and we'll worry about the height before we do the radius. Let's just take a look here. We're going to kind of have to guess at how tall this thing is. Alright, so in the modify panel, let's just put something into the height and we'll try it. Let's say maybe 50 and see how tall that looks. Alright, that might be a little short. Let's go maybe 55. Alright, that's probably close enough. Alright, let's check out the radius, see how that's looking. Alright, so maybe we'll do 1.1 on the radius. Okay, and again, you just want to be careful of the door up here. All right, you don't want to go too fat because then it's going to be hitting the lid. Okay, but that looks like we got enough clearance, so we'll say that's good. So 1.1 on the radius. Okay, and let's convert this to editable poly, and let's change the color. Okay, and if we look on the reference picture, you can see these rails also have a cap or a plug piece in the end, just like this guy down here. Alright, and again, you could add that. It would definitely, add a little more detail to the model, and it's going to look nicer when you're finished. I think just for the sake of speed, I'm going to leave that out. And what I might do, I'm just going to look up here, and you can see it here too. That looks like it's probably capped as well. Alright, so feel free to put that in if you want. I think what I might do is just try to round over the top of the post a bit. Okay, just so it's not just flat like that, because that's not going to look very good. Alright, so let's zoom in here on the top. Alright, I'm just going to go to polygon and select the top cap piece. Alright, and again, you can press Z on the keyboard anytime to zoom in on what you have selected. Alright, okay, so we'll use a combination of this view and the front view. Alright. So before we pull it up, I'm just going to inset it a couple times, I think. Alright, so let's open up inset. Alright, and we'll take the amount down. Maybe 0.25 or so. And we're just going to add some more resolution to the top. Okay, so we'll hit apply 2 times. Maybe? Yeah, that should work. Alright, and we'll just hit OK. Alright, just so we have some more loops in here. And we could probably actually weld the center together. So let's control click vertex to convert the selection. And I'm just going to open up weld. Alright, if it doesn't snap together, just try upping the threshold a little bit until they snap. And we'll do OK. And again, you can always check that just by dragging over that vert and checking how many you have. Alright, so let's go back to polygon. Alright, and what I'm going to do here is just drag around the whole top, and then hold Alt and deselect the sides. Alright, just so we're left with the cap, and then I'm going to hit shrink 1 time. Okay? Just like that. Alright, so I'm just going to move these up in the front view, and on move, I'm just going to pull them up on the Y. Okay, just to start rounding over the top. Alright, let's move it like that, and then we'll hit shrink, and then we'll move these guys up a little bit more to round it out. Alright, so just like that. You can exit polygon now. Alright, so that should look a little better than just having it completely perfectly flat. Alright, so I think we probably should soften up some of these edges while we're at it. So let's go to edge, and I think I'll do this guy right here. So I'm going to grab one of those, and we'll do a loop, and then I'm just going to chamfer. And we'll just take the amount down. Just want to soften it up a little bit so it's not, not a hard line. Alright, that might be fine. I'll just say 0.1 and OK. And then let's do the outer edge. Grab one of those, loop, chamfer. Alright, and I'm going to take this one down a bit. Alright, you might be able to do a double here. Okay, so for the first one I'm going to do 0.05, and then I'm just going to hit apply, and then lower this amount down. Okay, maybe to 0.02. Alright, just to soften it up a little bit and round it over more. Okay, and then we'll hit OK. Alright, so that should be fine. I think if we turn our edges off here with F4, it's probably going to look kind of faceted. And yeah, you can see it there. It's kind of rough looking. Okay, so what I might do before we copy this piece is just try throwing the smooth modifier on that to see if it gets rid of it. Okay, so let's go into the modify list, all the way down to smooth. There it is. Alright, and for this I'm just going to turn on auto smooth. Okay, and you can see it smoothed it out a bit. I mean, it's not perfect. If you get in here close, you can see it looks kind of janky. But at a distance from way back here, it should be smooth enough. Okay, so yeah, we'll just do that. Alright, and let's also name this. I'm just going to call it corner post. Okay, and let's center the pivot. Hierarchy tab, effect pivot only, centered object, and effect pivot only again, turn it off. Okay, so I think that'll be fine. Alright, so obviously we're going to have to make 3 more copies of this. Before I do that, I'm just going to save one more time. Alright, so I'm just going to go into the front view for this. Alright, so we could shift drag the post over to the other side to copy it. Another way to do it, if you really want to be anal and precise about it, is you can go up to mirror, open that up, alright, and we'll leave it on X, and I just want to do a copy, and then we'll hit OK. Alright, so it's copied the post and it's just sitting at the original position. Alright, so if you right click on the move tool, right, you can see on the X it's sitting at -29. Okay, so because we're working at the origin, and this only really works if you're working at the origin, obviously to get on this side of the origin it would be the opposite of that. So instead of -29 it would be +29. Alright, so what you can do is just take off the negative, backspace it out, and hit enter. Okay, and it'll reverse it to the other side. Alright, so they're perfectly spaced on either side of the origin. Alright, and that's a good little trick if you really need to be precise. In most cases it's not really necessary to be that precise about it, but you know, it's handy if you need it. Alright, so I think we'll just do the same on the other direction. Alright, so let's open up mirror again. This time we'll do it on the Y, and a copy, and OK, and then same thing, right click on the move tool, and this time I'm just going to take the negative out of the Y axis, backspace, hit enter. Okay, and we'll do it one more time with this one. Mirror, X or Y, copy, OK, and then just take the negative off the Y, backspace, enter. Alright, so they're perfectly spaced now, all evenly and the same. Alright, so let's save. Okay, so I think we can start building the actual railing pieces here. Alright, it looks to me like the radius of them is pretty much the same as the post. So I think what we can maybe do in this case, rather than actually start from scratch and build this out of a new piece, we might be able to get away with actually repurposing our corner post to make this piece. Okay, so let's try that. And that's always a good idea. If you can actually get away with, you know, reusing it and repurposing pieces of your model that you've already made, it'll save you a lot of time, obviously, rather than actually, you know, building the same thing or pretty much the same thing multiple times. If you can just clone it and then alter it a little bit to get a new piece, it's always a good idea. So let's try that. Alright, so I'm just going to grab the corner post there, and let's turn on rotate, and I'm also going to turn on angle snaps. Okay, and what angle snaps does, if you're not familiar with it, is it just snaps your rotation in increments of 5 degrees. Alright, so you can see if we rotate here, it counts up 5 degrees at a time. Alright, that makes it a lot easier if you're trying to rotate something 90 degrees or 45 degrees. Okay, so we'll turn those on. I'm just going to undo that with Control Z. Alright, and let's just do this in the left view, it'll probably be a little easier. Okay, so I'm just going to hold shift and just rotate a copy of this 90 degrees clockwise. Okay, and we'll say copy, and we can change the name for this piece. Let's just call it rail or something so we know what it is. Alright, and let's go back into perspective, and let's just move it into place again. So I'm going to right click on the move tool and just zero out the Y spinner by right clicking. Okay, and as you can see, it's going to come up a little short. If we look on the reference here, you can see they actually stick out a little bit past the corner posts. Okay, so we're going to have to make that longer. So let's do that first, and we'll do that in the left view. Alright, so I'm going to zoom in on the right end of it here, the rounded over end, and we'll go into the modify panel, and I'm just going to delete the smooth modifier temporarily, and you can do that by just hitting the little garbage can icon. Alright, and let's go to vertex, and just grab all the verts on this end, and just drag them over on the X to make it a little longer, okay? Let's take a look in perspective and see how that looks. Alright, that might be fine, doesn't have to be anything exact. Just something like that. Okay, and obviously we can't use it like this. Just going to exit vertex because we deleted the bottom of our corner post. Alright, so there's no end on this piece over here. Alright, so I think what we'll do in this case is just chop this in half and copy one side to the other side, just so we have that rounded over end on this end as well. Okay, so let's go to edge, and just make sure you don't have ignore back facing on, and we'll just drag through the center and do a connect. Alright, and for this we'll do one segment, no pinch, no slide. Alright, just so we have a loop in the dead center, and then let's go to polygon and grab all these polys on this side and just delete them with delete. Okay, and before we copy it over, I think I'm going to go to vertex and just grab the verts on this end and just drag them over a little bit to make it a little longer. Okay, and then we'll exit vertex. Alright, so to copy this over to the other side, we can probably use the Symmetry Modifier. Let's throw one on. So in the Modify list, I'm just going to go down to Symmetry. Alright, and we'll probably have to flip the axis, so let's just try them. Alright, so it looks like in my case it's the Z axis. If that doesn't work for you, just try the different ones, or try to flip them if you have to, until you get it like this, okay? So that's right, so let's convert it back to editable poly. Alright, and we still have this loop in the center, we don't really need it there, so let's go back to Edge. It should still be selected, if not, just reselect it, and we'll just remove that by hitting Control Backspace, okay? And then I'll take the edges out, but it'll also take the verts out, alright? And we can exit Edge. Alright, so I'm just going to center the pivot on it one more time. Hierarchy tab, Effect Pivot Only, Center to Object, and then turn that off. Okay, and let's just check the placement in the move. Again, right click, and we just want to make sure the Y is still zeroed out. Okay, that's fine. Alright, so let's put the smooth modifier back on before I forget. And auto smooth. Okay, so that should be fine. Let's move it over into the right position. Alright, we can do this in the front view probably. Alright, so I'm just going to move it over until it's on the outside of the post and just touching. Okay, just like that.